Well, one point I've been making all along was basically how shrewd the New World Order is and how it scams to actually make you run from one place to maybe a false opposition leader. And I want to actually highlight something. Actually, this came very recently. It's regarding Snowden. But it basically tells you why, or it illustrates how, like, Russia and the United States, the East and the West, have actually been working together all along. Even, I think, all the way back during the Cold War. Even now, it's always possible that one will try to get the upper hand over the other. But basically, it's been known since the early 50s that, or it's been actually a long-range plan. Russia has been built up as a major strength because it's going to be easier to combine two superpowers into one big global power and go from there for the New World Order. Now, a lot of times people in the United States will look at the news media and they'll say CNN, Fox, ABC, I don't want to watch that. They watch Russia Today. I think you're just getting another spiel that's the same deal in essence. They're not going to actually stick with the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. They're not. They'll talk one way and do another way, just like Obama's been doing recently with indefinite detention. But here's the illustration. I'm going to show you just how Putin actually works together with the United States. While people are saying, oh, Putin's against the New World Order, they're all part of it. It's almost like, I'm going to point out one thing before I even say this, another thing. Major Anatoly Golitsyn said that they want to introduce communism into the West with a human face. So basically now we have this hybrid communist capitalist type system going on, in China and Russia or whatever. They want to introduce it into the West with a human face after they expect total financial collapse in the West. Major Anatoly Golitsyn said this decades ago. It's been on my mind all the time. I think the guy's been dead on balls accurate. Every freaking prediction he's made has come true. So I'm saying is, when you're running from Obama to Putin, you're not running to something better. It's just something different, but it's just the same kind of garbage. But here's the illustration that Russia works with the West. According to Putin, Snowden can stay in Russia if he stops damaging the USA. That in itself says, there's one condition. If he wants to remain here, meaning Russia, he must stop his work aimed at damaging our American partners, as odd as that may sound from me. That was Putin's quote. Now, if Snowden did this against Putin's FSB, he'd already been into a million minced pieces already. I swear to God, I know it. So basically, he's going to act like, he's saving this guy and all this. But really, the gist of it is, I guess Snowden actually is causing some serious damage, though. He is. But, I don't know. If I was in Snowden's shoes, I would never go to Russia or China or anything like that. I don't know. I'd probably hide out in the South Pacific on one of them islands that they don't map, That would be one of my deals, man. I wouldn't be going to Russia or China. I just think Snowden was probably extremely intelligent. He's got a lot of balls to do what he did. But, I don't know. I think it's like running from the frying pan to the fire, going from, if you see the NSA is bad and you're running to the Russia. I just wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that, man. I don't know. I think one's worse than the other, actually. But my illustration here is that Putin is actually working with the West. He's part of the New World Order. So when you have this financial collapse in the West, they're going to introduce the new ways. Oh boy, it's going to be modeled after what's in Russia. And it ain't good, man. It's even worse than the United States, even though things are not going good here too good. He goes on to say Russia has never extradited anybody and is not going to do so. Some of us have, and no one has ever been extradited to Russia. So, that's because we wouldn't give them up. They used to exchange like spies and stuff. But he also said that Snowden was not spying on the USA for Russia, which we know. But basically, he's given him protection, but it's under a condition. You will not damage the United States or leak any kind of information. So I don't know how that even condition's going to be applied, because maybe Snowden's got all this information all over the place, and if it comes out, maybe that'll be like you're damaging the United States now. You're not complying with the freaking agreement, right? I'm just saying, man. I wish this Snowden guy would have went somewhere else, because I like what he did. I mean, it took a lot of balls to do what he did, but I just wouldn't be going to Russia. If I went to Russia, it would be with somebody that, Putin didn't know about. You know what I mean? Because I know Putin's all in with the New World Order. It's people are getting all like, oh yeah, he's all for the church and all. It's a big game, man. It's a big game. They're all the same damn thing. So, I also want to point out something else about disparity between the wealthy and the poor. The number one country for having the most disparity between wealthy and poor, in other words, the wealthy got everything and everybody else doesn't have crap and there's no middle class. The worst one going is actually the Russian Federation, believe it or not, of the big nations. The Russian Federation. You know who's number 2 on the list of the big nations? I'm not talking small nations. The United States, between disparity between rich and poor. I don't like saying that, but that's what the fact is. So, so here we got Putin, who basically in cahoots with the West in a lot of ways. I mean, he talks one way, but it's a sham. These guys actually are working together. It's always been working together for decades. It's always been that way. But these are the 2 countries that are actually number 1 on the list for having the most disparity between the wealthy and the poor. And actually, the country that has the least disparity between wealthy and poor is in Japan. And another one that's very close to Japan, between the wealthy and the poor, there's a bigger middle class, is Australia. So, talking to Americans and Australians and probably some Japanese, maybe Russians too, you might find that interesting. I know in Russia they do have a lot of billionaires, and the people seem to not have too much money. That's a fact, man. But it looks like the United States is getting right in that same type of thing too. So I just think it's Snowden kind of, but that's my point on this whole thing. Putin is basically a scam too. They're all a scam. Gorbachev was a scam. Yeltsin was a scam. They're all working with the freaking West. And I'm talking about not the West like the average people. I'm talking about the Western elite. They all have been. All the Russian leaders, all the way back, they've always been working with the Western elite. Now, the one thing that Major Golitsyn says the Western elite don't know what the hell they're doing. They're going to get screwed over and shafted by them. And I tell you the truth, I think that's what's going to happen. Because they're playing with fire, man. Everything on the top is like a gang. Despite all the polite talk, it's just like a freaking gang of thugs. And if they can get upper hand and take a little bit, they're very ambitious people. If they can take more, they'll take more. But, they usually work together because it's both in their mutual interest to do so. But Putin, when he talks about, hey, Snowden, you can stay here as long as you don't damage the United States, that tells you everything in the world what's going on. He's basically working with the West. When you get RT presentations from Russia today, they are basically working with the West. They're giving you some stuff, so you're coming as a focused, channeled opposition to them, and especially if you spend enough time on RT, you're not looking at other alternative channels too. That's another thing. They got your attention. So, I'm saying I think I'm dead on balls accurate with this stuff. RT and a lot of major alternative media like Alex Jones and stuff, they're basically controlled opposition. I say that's what they really, really are. And also to illustrate how, Putin actually does work with the West, the Western elite, that is. Let me make that clear. The Western elite. He does not want Snowden to damage the United States. That's part of the agreement for letting him stay there. So, he's not on the opposite. He's not on the team of the American people. He's on the team of the American Western elite. And I want to make that very clear. so people understand where I'm coming from on this stuff. Because I think sometimes they go, "Oh, you bomb." I know Obama was screwed up. I know Cheney screwed up. I know Bush is screwed up. Putin screwed up. They're all of them are.